Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness. Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. I've got Damichael Cole on today's episode. Damichael Cole, the Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, also a host of Locked On Grizzlies. Damichael, how's it going, man?
How you doing, Keith? It's going pretty good. Finally glad to join you on here. It's been a while. Long
it's our
time
first. I would
listening.
say, I don't know if we've ever talked basketball together. We've
we
talked,
haven't.
but I don't think I've
we
ever
haven't.
asked you questions about the Grizzlies or anything. So this is fun. So
Exactly.
thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
First of all, before we get into the Grizzlies, what's your summer like? And when does it end? You got like two weeks before it gets really hardcore?
I got a couple weeks left, so I got a couple more trips that I'm gonna sneak out of here real fast and take a couple little quick trips. Nothing too big, but just to get away.
That's
get
right.
away a little bit, have a little fun, and just kind of debrief before we hit the ground running in October. And once it starts, it's not gonna slow down, especially with this team and all the storylines surrounding it.
So what are you looking forward to the most about this when media day happens? And then once training camp kicks off, like what's the thing that's right now top on your list that you want to maybe get some more answers to or ask about?
Man, I think we'll touch on it here. Is that fifth starter and kind of where they see these guys, Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, and Zaire Williams, right? Because people have all these, everyone says, oh, we should go out and get this player. Oh, we should go out and get that player. And I always say, dude, the Grizzlies have like 17 to 18 guaranteed contracts on their roster right now. So anytime someone proposes that idea to me, I say, okay, well, tell me three guys you're going to take off the team. Sure,
Yeah.
Josh Christopher and Isaiah Todd may be your easier choices, but then, okay, now, so who's next? And once you make that choice, you have to get into John Conchar, Zaire Williams, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia. No one, maybe people, they want to say John Conchar possibly, but the Grizzlies just extended him. Like his
Yeah, he's owed. That's why I tell people, I'm like, guys, he has the most money committed to him, basically outside of like the top core. Like he's got
exactly.
It doesn't even kick in until another year. So it's like you can't
kick into another year.
Yeah, because people are talking about like campaign just got let go.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
He's got that Memphis connection, and I think most people think we still need a dribbler. I don't know what your thoughts are on Derrick Rose. I'm dubious, hopeful but dubious, and so like campaign would sort of make sense, but like who are you? Like right now we have 21. Sure, you could just let Shaq Harrison go or whatever, but like there's literally not a spot on the roster. Even before getting into the guaranteed deals and then getting down to 15 on opening night, like no one's cutting Junior Lofton free. And people get angry if you point out like, well, if you got to cut somebody, that's easily the most probable just based on his contract and where he is in like the rotation. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The fifth starter stuff, like, do you have like, what's just your estimation? Like if you were calling the shots, what would you do? Because I don't believe anyone has any clue what they're thinking. I think most people feel like the closing option is probably going to be Luke Kennard. Like, let's not like that. He's the best player in a vacuum, but who do they start? I have no idea. So like unrelated to intel, just what's your opinion on what you'd like to see them do?
So, you just hit it on the money for me. I've always said when people talk about the starting lineups, the closing lineup is the more, and you know this, you talk about it. Like the closing lineup is very important. We see with the Grizzlies in the past couple seasons, a lot of games, Steven Adams will start. Sometimes he'll close depending on who they're playing, matchup, how the game's going. And then sometimes it'll be Brandon Clark. And things go very well when the Grizzlies put that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark lineup together, historically speaking. But in this case, I feel like the lineup that they're going to lean on the most will be the lineup that features Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, and Marcus Smart. Who starts the season is I mean, it's put the names in a hat and just pick one out, and you can make an argument for 3-4 guys. My guess, no one's gonna really love this answer, but I think my guess right now would be John Conchar.
I'm for it. I came back to that. Like, you know what? It might just be Conchar.
Yeah, you want someone who's going to shoot the ball. We know how much Taylor Jenkins loves defense. You put Marcus Smart on the floor, you put John Conchar on the floor. Now, when you play a team like the Pelicans on open night, one can get McCollum, the other guy can get Brandon Ingram. Whereas if you start Luke Kennard, the offensive rate is going to be through the roof. But you're still going to look. Luke Kennard and Desmond Bane is going to have to guard C.J. McCollum. Desmond Bane probably can do it, but does Desmond Bane keep up his high level of offensive efficiency? This is something that I've talked to him about. I remember last year when Dillon Brooks missed the first couple games of the season, no one was as happy as Desmond Bane to get Dillon Brooks back because of the fact that he didn't have to chase around these high premium scorers off screens all game. And if you remember the beginning of last season, Desmond Bane struggled offensively. And that was part of it, getting his conditioning back and having to fly around on defense all the time. And then go on offense and try to, run around the court and get open and things like that. Like, it's hard to play Desmond Bane's style of game while being that type of defender as well as the offensive impact. So my guess early on would be John Conchar. I'm not opposed to going with Luke Kennard, but it would be hard for me to see any of the second-year guys getting that job.
Yeah, when you say, like, put the names in a hat, that's like I've gotten to the point where I don't even care. Where, like, I don't even have I don't have a passionate person I'm pulling for. Like,
yeah, it is what it is, right?
Like, the names in the hat, I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's do Conchar. That's fine. Let's do Roddy. That's fine. Let's do Zaire Williams. That's fine. The one thing about Luke Kennard where I started off the summer being like, you know what? When I try to come up with a fake rotation, I feel like I need to start Kennard on the bench because I feel like it just balances. Like, throughout the 48 minutes, like, I don't want to, like, I feel like I gotta spread them out. But then the one concern I have, like you correctly point out, it doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes. The one part of me that kind of like recoils at that is thinking about times where we knew who the Grizzlies wanted to finish with. Like, you think about the playoff series against the Timberwolves and the Warriors, and it was like, yeah, we're starting Tillman, but that doesn't matter because we want to finish with Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr. But guess what? We never got to those lineups because foul trouble or whatever. And so part of me is like, if that's your five, that's your closing five. Well, why don't we guarantee we get minutes with that by starting the game with your best five? And then we know at the very least, all right, you can pull Luke after 4 minutes or Dez or whoever to try to balance it. So that's where I come back now. So, like, maybe we should start our best five.
And you can make a strong argument for that. You can make a strong argument for starting Luke Kennard. When the Marcus Smart trade was first made, you go to one of my very first tweets was proposing the idea of getting Marcus Smart now gives the Grizzlies that option while John Moran is suspended. Because I don't think anybody was talking about Luke Kennard being a starter until that happened. But now they have the option. If you go back to the playoffs last year, remember we were talking about, like, why aren't the Grizzlies putting Luke Kennard in their closing lineup? And I asked Taylor Jenkins about it, and he basically said that, paraphrasing, the Grizzlies don't want more than one guy on the floor who's going to get hunted by the offense. And John Morant was the one guy that they couldn't switch everything with. He was the one guy that they were hedging screens with in that playoff series against the Lakers when LeBron was trying to draw the switches and things like that. They'd switch it if it was Dez, Tillman, Jaren, whoever else it was, Dillon Brooks. But if it was John Morant, they would hedge it. They don't want two guys on the floor where they'll have to do that with going to games. And now with the option of putting Luke Kennard out there, acquiring Marcus Smart gives you that option where Luke Kennard can be the only guy we say, you don't want to switch this, go ahead and hedge it. You still got Marcus Smart who's switchable. You still got Desmond Bane. Then we know about, Jaren Jackson Jr. We'll see what Steven Adams looks like, at this point. But I feel like now you have that option, of course, and we haven't even seen, Luke Kennard run off of Steven Adams' screen yet. I think there is a lot of potential to that lineup. And I think for me, that's the lineup that I would go with probably. But I try to think how Taylor Jenkins thinks. Taylor Jenkins thinks about defense way more than I do, and he loves the John Conchar net rating numbers and things like that. If you look at all these top Grizzlies lineups, a lot of them are going to feature John Conchar in terms of net rating, and we may not see it with the raw eyes because he's not out there, blocking 3 shots a game. He's not deflecting a lot of passes and things like that. But at the end of the day, John Conchar has been a very good positional defender. He's in the right spots all the time. He can slide his feet really well. He's a really good athlete. The Grizzlies like him on that end, and he changes games.
He also rebounds.
He also rebounds.
And that's the thing the team's bad at, outside of Steven Adams, with Brandon Clark on the shelf, having that extra rebounding is always good that Conchar brings.
Yep.
Going back to the defensive side of things, that's where, again, I've started going back to the Luke Kennard thing. If they start Luke Kennard, everyone else's defensive role, I think, will stay the same. Like Bane and Marcus Smart, and Jaren and Steven, obviously, Bane and Marcus Smart's defensive assignments, if you have Kennard in there or Ja Morant, Kennard and Ja are going to guard the weakest backcourt guy usually, or the guy you can cheat off on. So I think maybe because of that, it's another reason you can hold these things consistent throughout the first 25 games. But of course, we have no idea what's going to happen. I guess one thing maybe everyone's looking forward to when training camp opens is also the Steven Adams. Hey man, can you run? Can you jump? Are you actually healthy? We all have our fingers crossed for that. Let's talk about the FIBA World Cup a little bit. I know you were tracking that, you were following that. It's kind of rough for us Grizzlies fans where we went from before the game started, Joe Varden on The Athletic had that article that was Jaren Jackson Jr. voted the best player in Team USA mining camp by the players. And we're all let's go, level up. And then it ends with all right, Team USA lost 3 out of 4 games. They did not medal. Jaren got a lot of blame for the team's rebounding issues. I don't know if it's all warranted. Also, Jaren struggled with foul trouble again. Now some media people are he might not be even on the team in Paris next year. Do you think there's going to be any kind of fallout from just the overall perception? I mean, I'm probably too biased. I was Jaren was fine. I don't know what you guys want him to do. If he's not going to be used on the offensive end, and then he's only doing switch defense and he's rim protecting, but you're not he's never gonna be a good rebounder. But do you think there's gonna be any fallout from how Jaren played and the overall perception of his play?
Short answer would be yes. But here's the thing. One thing I love about the NBA is it's and really basketball in general, just the game of basketball. It's not necessarily the 5 most talented players who are going to win you games. You can't just say, hey, let me go put the 5 guys in the world who dribble the best, shoot the best, and have this best combination of that skill set on the floor. But you can put a team out there that says, give me the greatest shot creator, give me the greatest defender, give me the greatest spot-up shooter who probably can just take 1 or 2 dribbles per game, and give me a guy who switches on defense and can knock down 37% of his three-pointers. That team can probably go head-to-head with the greatest talent team of all time because you have some of everything. That's kind of what's made the Grizzlies great. These years I talk about how Steven Adams, best rebounder. Jaren Jackson Jr., best shot blocker. Desmond Bane, one of the greatest shooters. Ja, one of the greatest scorers. You have some of everything. But getting back to that point and how it correlates to what Jaren Jackson Jr. has going on is Jaren was not used how he should be used. If as it opposed to Team USA, don't put him on the team next year if you're not going to put him at power forward. It's simple. Guys like Mitchell Robinson, for example, from a talent standpoint, nowhere on Jaren Jackson Jr.'s level, right? But if you talk about fit, these guys going to rebound the heck out of the ball. Steven Adams has been very complimentary of how he rebounds the basketball. He's going to block shots. He's going to catch lobs. He's going to set screens. You throw him on Team USA in that role that Jaren Jackson Jr. was in, and he thrives probably much better than Jaren did in that same role. But if you talk about just basketball skill set, it's not a conversation. Jaren is levels above. So with all that being said, I just feel like they have to put Jaren, in a position to succeed. From the Grizzlies standpoint, when you talk about the fallback from this, a couple years ago, there was the big conversation about Jaren, when he'll be eventually moved to center and things like that. Now that gets a little bit quieter because it's okay, Jonas was an incredible rebounder. Steven Adams is an incredible rebounder. how much would that change the Grizzlies if you go with Jaren Jackson Jr. as your starting center? What will it look like overall? I think there are just certain things that he does at the four, particularly as a roamer, right? When you're playing certain matchups, you play a Pelicans, you can put him on Herb Jones. You play certain teams, you can have him guarding these weaker guys, and he could just leave them open and just keep 1 foot in the paint, 1 foot out of it, and just block shots from everywhere. Like, you can't do that at center because you are the last line of defense. The Grizzlies are able to do that because – okay, Jaren Jackson Jr. bites for a pump fake. Okay, now you got to go score past Steven Adams at the rim. Like, they have the ability to do that. A lot of teams don't have that ability, and that was the problem with Team USA. Like, okay, if you get past Jaren Jackson Jr., now you got a bunch of 6'4", 6'5" guys. Yeah. Like, that's what Dennis Schroeder did. Dennis Schroeder basically just brought Jaren out of the paint and just went to the right. And in that Germany game, and it's a bunch of 6'5" guys. Once he gets past Mikal Bridges, like, you don't have much length, like Josh Hart, Austin Reeves. None of those guys are blocking, Dennis Schroeder. So Team USA just didn't use him the correct way. Quite frankly, if they want a guy who's going to be a rim-running 5, then Jaren ain't your guy.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And like, one of the big frustrations I feel like is going to be, now that they talk about the Olympic team, they're like, oh, well, LeBron, is going to play and KD's going to play. And I'm like, well, let Jaren be the 5 alongside 7-footer Kevin Durant and, huge LeBron James. Yeah. Like, if your small forward is 6'8", 270,
whole different ball game.
It's a whole different ball game. You're like, Jaren's 3 and 4 was Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. It's like, those are tiny.
Josh Hart ain't getting those chase down blocks like LeBron.
Yeah,
James.
and now they're like, oh, the Team USA needed Bam, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. But my frustration would be like, what if Team USA adds Bam? And then they're not going to play Bam and Jaren at the same time. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you, Steve Kerr? Bam and Jaren at the same time would ruin teams. Like, it would be incredible. They'd crush people, but it's like they're so hesitant to play.
That was my other problem.
Yeah.
That was my other problem, Keith. Like, Steve Kerr, great coach to me. I know everyone, kind of, he's a great coach. But the thing is, you can't coach every team like the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, Team USA doesn't have the two of the 5 greatest shooters in the history of basketball in the backcourt and a generational defender who can guard 5 positions at power forward. Like, you can't put Josh Hart and Paolo Banchero at center and say, okay, it worked for Golden State, it's going to work here. No, it's one Draymond Green. Like, you can't do that. Like, you adjust. What makes the elite of the elite coaches, what makes Eric Spoelstra and Greg Popovich themselves, is you adjust to the personnel. When Greg Popovich's personnel changed from the 2 dominant bigs to when you got scoring guards like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, he adjusted. And when it changed into Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge, he adjusted again. And we've seen Eric Spoelstra do it, whereas Steve Kerr is just like, I'm going to play my small 5 regardless of what anybody else thinks. No matter how much we get out-rebounded every game, still going to do it.
Yeah, it was frustrating for sure. Next summer for Team USA, I mean, you'd think Jaren has a leg up because he made this commitment. He played this year.
Right,
if he wants to do it, surely they would bring him back. And you're not going to find, you're not going to find better big men. Even if you do hopefully adjust by adding more rebounders. Another Grizzlies player I think will be considered, and that'll be Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane spoke this summer about how Grant Hill had reached out, but he was dealing with his recovery of the surgery on his foot, on his toe. And so, like, there is a chance, I guess, next summer, although there's only 12 spots. So, like, if Devin Booker and everybody says they're in, maybe, like, he won't get in. But there is a chance that Desmond Bane could be playing for Team USA next summer alongside Jaren. And, like, in my mind, that's a perfect fit. And that again goes to a thing where just add shooting and add a guy who can dribble, a guy who's a willing passer. Like, what do you think about Desmond Bane's possibility of being included on Team USA?
Healthy Desmond Bane would have been on this World Cup team.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. He would have been on that team and whatnot. But going into next year, again, it's the same question. Yeah, there may be 3 shooting guards who, from a talent perspective, you say, oh, this guy's above Desmond Bane. But you talk about what Team USA needs. You talk about someone who's going to bring elite shooting with the type of point guard play that Team USA could potentially have. With guys like Darius Garland and his shiftiness, John Morant, his ability to get to the rack, Kyrie Irving, De'Aaron Fox, even the old heads, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, those type of guys, they're going to get past people, and Desmond Bane's going to get so many open looks I think the chances are looking really good for him. That's a hooper. I call Desmond Bane a hooper because that's one of those guys you don't got to worry about how much he's in the gym. He's one of those guys when he's healthy, he's going to be playing basketball all the time, and it's zero doubt in my mind that he's going to be one of the top candidates for one of those guard spots on Team USA. I think he has some versatility to him as well. We're going to see him play the 3 some with the Grizzlies this year. That can strengthen his chances as well as someone who can play the 2, play the 3 for Team USA. I think there's a good chance. Health is obviously going to be a big factor because right now everyone just thinks like the 12 best Americans are going to play, which is funny because once these guys go through 82-game regular season and, Bron's toe starts hurting or Kevin Durant's elbow is aching a little bit, some things are going to change. And I think Desmond Bane health has been great throughout his entire basketball life. This was the first major injury he's ever had. So, I think health-wise, he should be in good shape, and he's a great candidate for Team USA to be.
Yeah. Also, once the Grizzlies make the finals, will they want to take some time off, into June?
Yeah.
Right on. No. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back. I'm going to ask you about this kind of showdown between Grizzlies and Tigers fans over state funding. You can hopefully fill me in what's going on. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with Damichael Cole. Underdog Fantasy is an exciting place to win real money playing fantasy sports. You can compete in large daily fantasy tournaments, or you can be like me and play in the 3-person or 5-person drafts. It makes NFL Sundays even more enjoyable. And for this NFL season, Underdog is giving all new customers one free mystery pick. That's in addition to them doubling your opening deposit up to $100. For week 2 of the NFL season, the new customer free pick is Joe Burrow. If he passes for at least 1 yard, that's a winner right there. So head to Underdog Fantasy, download the app using the link in this episode, or use that promo code FBBF. Then head to the lobby to collect that free pick. The free pick offer will be available for all new customers throughout the NFL season. So once again, give Underdog Fantasy a shot. Use that promo code FBBF to collect those free bonuses. Note, higher or lower games and the free picks are not available in all states. All right, Damichael, right now there's an issue it seems like the city of Memphis over how to divide up some state funding. Or the state allotted Memphis money to do some repairs and upgrades between the University of Memphis athletics programs and the Memphis Grizzlies. And I guess they left it to the city to say, hey, you figure it out. And I was on social media trying to figure out why everyone was so mad at each other, because I don't follow college basketball and I'll be honest, I don't care about University of Memphis sports. I'm not from Memphis. I was trying to suss out, everyone's so angry, what's going on? And maybe I should know more about the civic activities of what our state and city are doing. But what's the short of what exactly is happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. So, this whole thing about the Grizzlies and the lease at FedEx Forum and when the lease potentially ends, which is nowhere near now. I think it's 9 years, 28, 29, something like that. It's a while before the lease ends or whatever. But people are starting to have that come say, oh, what happens with the Grizzlies and things like that? What happens to the Tigers, the college basketball Tigers playing, at FedEx Forum and all that. But in short, the Grizzlies, like you said, got this flow of money. I think it's $684 million. And there's $350 million in cash pretty much that could be divided between the Tigers and the Grizzlies, or it could be given to one or the other. And getting into the history with Memphis a little bit, Memphis, at the end of the day, the Grizzlies and the Tigers are kind of viewed in different lenses. The Tigers, the old school. There's more of the old school because when you sit down with people who've been born and raised in Memphis 60 years or so, they're going to talk to you about Memphis State and Keith Lee and Andre Turner and Penny Hardaway and so forth. They're going to talk to you about that. William Bedford, and the list goes on. That's what they're going to talk to you about. You talk about people 40 and under pretty much. They might talk about D Rose, Calipari a little bit, but they're going to talk about grit and grind. They're going to talk about what Child's doing right now. And it's kind of that shift because you have the generational ties to the Memphis Tigers, but you have the cultural ties to the Grizzlies, where the Grizzlies are more representative of the culture of Memphis, whereas the Tigers are more representative of the historical idea of Memphis. So now you got this nip and tuck about where the money should go and whatnot. And it's not even really about the college basketball Tigers because they play at the FedEx Forum. So it's more between, the Liberty Bowl, then there's the whole conference realignment conversation, right? The Liberty Bowl, you can get 60K people in there, on a great night. So they're comparing 60K in the Liberty Bowl to 15 to 20K, in the FedEx Forum and things like that. And it's this whole conversation about
that doesn't work when you start multiplying the number of events.
It doesn't work out.
That's where those numbers don't work out.
And that's when people factor in the fact that you have concerts. You got Lil Baby just came here. Adam Sandler is just scheduled a date at FedEx Forum, coming up. Alicia Keys, you have a bunch of big performers who are coming into Memphis. And I've talked to people at other stadiums, Crypto.com Arena and all these other big arenas. A lot of their resources kind of come from that fact, getting these entertainers to come here. Entertainers aren't coming to the Liberty Bowl. So that's where the nip and tuck comes. A lot of the people on the Tiger side want to see more of that money allocated to the college football, to the Memphis Tigers, helping the Liberty Bowl, get upgrades and things there. And then there are other people that say, that money should go more to the FedEx Forum, which of course lends more to the Grizzlies and some of what the college basketball Tigers as well. But that's kind of the whole conversation. It's just basically people are saying, the Tigers are more important than the Grizzlies, so they should get more of the money. Then you say other people say, well, the Grizzlies are more important on a global scale. So it's this whole, debate. But
so, I mean, as a Grizzlies podcaster, it's when you talk about importance as far as a media wise, there's no comparison. The impact what the Grizzlies do for the city of Memphis economically,
it's a global game
and global, and then compared to what Memphis Tigers athletics does. But then of course it's not apples to apples, which I think people they're arguing this about. It's more about, I think the friction should be more about, we're talking about a public university against a private corporation worth billions of dollars with an owner who's one of the richest people in the world. And so that, again, that's where I'm totally sympathetic, I guess, to most arguments where I'm the city owns FedEx Forum. And this, again, this is where my ignorance of just local, how stuff works, the city owns it. Obviously, Robert Pera is going to benefit greatly from the investments they make in it. And so you say, well, why is public money all going to this? Couldn't there be private money? If we don't find the FedEx, they paid for the naming rights, paid for a massive chunk of building in the first place. And so then they look at Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City just committed $800 million. And the ownership's kicking in 50. And you're couldn't $800 million be better used for citizens, for infrastructure, stormwater drainage, putting utilities underground. So the power doesn't go out every time it storms every few weeks or whatever. There are certainly a lot of competing needs in every city. And so that's why I'm sympathetic for this is above my pay grade now. And I don't know who's supposed to get the money. If the Grizzlies don't get the money, obviously with that 2030 lease expiration, that's sort of close in the realm of professional sports. And so you're all right, that needs to get taken care of. And how much can Robert Pera? I'm sure there's some kind of compromise that's going to happen. And I would love to hear the conversations between the power brokers who are in charge.
It's a big deal. Expansion in the NBA is a huge conversation right now. And you look at with the Grizzlies and line it up with, I don't know off the top of my head how long the current CBA, the one that just was signed, how long it is. But I remember when I initially saw it, it's not too far off from when the Grizzlies lease is expected to go up. So, these conversations need to be had right now. And a lot of things need to be, kind of geared up in terms of the Grizzlies need that support from the city. They need to feel that support from the city because in the simplest form, Robert Pera doesn't really have ties to Memphis like that.
He didn't have the roots. Yeah.
So it's not a situation where it's like, oh, he loves Memphis with all his core. Like, I mean, this isn't me speaking on any intel. This is just like common knowledge. Like he is not a Memphian. I personally haven't seen him at that many Grizzlies games since I've been on the beat, like here in Memphis or anything. Like he's not, like Mark Cuban or Steve Ballmer or something like that in terms of going to these games. So with all that being said, like, I mean, as long as you have this shadow like hovering over you, it's realistic.
Yeah. I just I'm gonna now plead for let's just all get along. Grizzlies and Tigers fans.
Let's all just get along.
All just get along, and hopefully it'll work out somehow. Anyways, Damichael, thanks so much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you on to talk basketball. And we will definitely I'll definitely get you back on so we can do this again sometime.
Anytime, Keith, man. Appreciate you for having me on here.